Welcome to the Mike Al Show. Today I'm going to be talking about NFL trades, the World Baseball Classic, and ump that got suspended in college baseball, and March Madness, which is coming up. So first of all, I'm going to talk about Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. So a trade has been made between the Jets and the Packers for Aaron Rodgers. But Rodgers right now has a no trade clause, which means that he's the one that has to decide if he wants to go to the Jets or not. And he still has to make his decision, which I believe he will. He should, because there's no other team that he's going to be able to go to, and he's not staying on the Packers. So more than likely he will be going to the Jets. And once he goes to the Jets, I think they have a chance. I think they'll beat the Bills this year. Like, they'll win that division. They will be better in that division, and they will most definitely make the playoffs, if not get farther. They have good wide receivers and Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore, and then they have a really good defense and good special teams. So I think the Jets will make it far in the playoffs if they can get Aaron Rodgers. If he doesn't decide to take 2.5 months to decide, so that's interesting. And also the Jets have cleared out room, like in their cap space for him, because they didn't have enough room for him to be on their team. So that means that they are anticipating Rodgers to come play for them. Jalen Ramsey was traded to the Dolphins. This is a big trade, or is a medium-sized trade, I guess. It gives the Dolphins a better defense, more leverage. They were already a playoff team last year. They have an amazing offense if they could keep a quarterback. If Tua can stay healthy, the Dolphins for sure are a playoff team. And with Ramsey joining their defense, they get better. Carolina, after trading the Bears for the number one pick, might trade down. The only team they would trade down to is the Colts. And to do that, because they say if they do that, they can still go get the guy they want, which the guy they want is C.J. Stroud, which is who I would want with the first pick. They say they either want him or Anthony Richardson. So that's not bad. I don't know about Anthony Richardson, though. I mean, he had an amazing NFL combine, but all of his amazing attributes are not passing related. They were all speed, jumping, height, physicality, all that stuff. So I mean, you want all that stuff with a quarterback. So we'll see how he pans out. He shouldn't do bad. And then C.J. Stroud, I think he will do the best. So I think that would be great interest of Carolina to recuperate some of the draft picks they got back after they traded the Bears, because they are in a deep hole right now, and the Bears definitely won that trade. Well, depending on who they can draft this year. If they can smartly draft people, then for sure the Bears won that trade, and it won't even be close. Team USA beat Britain yesterday after Britain scored the first run, and then Team USA destroyed them from there. Kyle Schwarber hit a dinger, and Team USA, I mean, there's no way Britain was going to beat them. So the three teams that will win the World Baseball Classic, I think it'll either be Japan with Shohei Ohtani leading. It'll be Team USA, but they have a couple of gaps, but they are great offensively. If their pitching holds up, they should do good. And then the Dominican Republic, they have an amazing team. They're pretty good. And then they have great pitchers too, and they're great offensively. The Czech Republic, though, they lost to Japan yesterday 10-2. And their team is very interesting. Their entire team is like, they don't have a baseball team or like any national baseball teams there. So their entire team was made up of people working normal jobs like everybody else. And that's really interesting because they had their pitcher yesterday had his highest ball pitched was 79 miles an hour, which is insane. And he's still doing that. He still had an amazing game of pitching. He still had a pretty good game of pitching. I mean, imagine going back to work on Monday and saying, "Hey, I struck out Shohei Ohtani." That'd just be a hilarious story. So that is pretty funny. And then he also had a 1,000 of average for rotation movement on his pitches, and in the MLB, the average is like 2,500. So that is insane. So it's not like his ball is moving a bunch, and more than like I saw a stat 75% plus of his pitches were sliders or curveballs. So that's very interesting. There was a college umpire suspended for a horrendous strikeout call. So he has been suspended indefinitely after a game between Mississippi State Valley and New Orleans. New Orleans was, no matter what, going to win this game. There's 2 outs, but the 2 strike calls ended the game for Mississippi State Valley, which is very frustrating, and they were both on terrible calls. The first one was a really bad strike below the guy's knees, outside by like 6 inches, so that's understandable. And the batter got all mad and was like jumping around and showed some body language the ump apparently didn't like. So I understand that. And he would have been better kicking the guy out of the game for doing that than being suspended indefinitely because he calls a strike on a pitch that's way below, at his shins from 3 feet outside of the box. It wasn't even close. It was the worst call of a pitch I have ever seen in my life. And this guy deserves to be suspended. I just wish that they would do this in more sports. Like, imagine an NFL ref, like the NFL ref, like in the New Orleans and Rams game a couple years ago when he missed that call of the helmet or the targeting and absolutely missed that call and cost the Saints the game, cost the Saints a potential Super Bowl opportunity. Imagine he gets suspended for that. Imagine all these people, like NBA refs get suspended or MLB umpires get suspended for terrible calls. I think this would be an amazing job or amazing thought, like for sports to do, because it gives the referees or umps or officials a discipline for not calling good games. So I think this would be something amazing to implement into sports. So I just wish that some sport would do this and get everybody else started into it. They either need to do this or they need to train their people better. Because there are lots, like NFL refs, they're not even their full-time jobs. Like during the NFL season, like when they're not in the NFL season, they have different jobs. When they're not in the NFL season, they should be training and going over film and stuff and learning from their mistakes. See, I get it if you make a mistake. But not when you're mad at somebody and then call a terrible strike or just in general are a terrible official. I just wish this would be implemented in sports more. Lastly, I'm going to talk about Purdue. And the NCAA tournament. So they won the Big Ten tournament today. It was crazy. It was way too close of a game than it should have been. They were up by 17 with 5 minutes to go. And they couldn't hit a 3 to save their life. Lawyer couldn't hit a free throw within the last minute, which was killing them. They were down by 2, or Purdue was up by 2 points with 6 seconds to go, and Penn State had the ball, and I was getting really nervous. I thought they should just foul them because, especially if Penn State would have had number 1 in, they would have for sure hit a 3 and beat Purdue, and I would have been very mad. But number 11 got the ball and absolutely choked and turned the ball over on a travel. So Purdue got really lucky. And then they had a very smart play, and they just threw the ball to Edey, and he tipped it, and time ran out. So that was good. But Painter, he's a good coach in certain situations. Like, Morton should not be on offense. He's a terrible shooter. Terrible. But the only reason he's out there is because of how good of a defender he is. If he wasn't good on defense, he would never touch the court. But then when you're winning by they were up by 8 with 2 minutes to go, and you don't have Edie in. I don't care unless you're winning by like 20 at that point, Edie should be in, because just like today, a team can come back from 10 points within 30 seconds, like Penn State did, or like IU did yesterday against Penn State. So they need to learn that. And coming into March Madness, if Purdue doesn't start hitting threes, they're in a bunch of trouble. But Purdue's bracket looks pretty easy. I mean, they'll figure out a way to lose in the Sweet 16, like always, but they don't have like any really good teams that they have to face in their region. The best teams I can see are Marquette, which is the 2 seed, so they won't have to play them until the Elite 8 if they make it that far. And yeah, there's not really anybody else. But Alabama is the number 1 overall, like out of all the number 1 seeds. So because they won and Houston lost, which I agree with that. Houston's not that good of a team. I mean, they didn't really have to play anybody. So that's one thing. But Houston should still be a number 1 team, but they shouldn't be the number one team, which is why they gave it to Alabama. And then Kansas also lost, and they still managed to get a number 1 seed. And UCLA, they also lost, which put them down to a 2 seed and moved Purdue up. So I think the hardest region is probably the one Houston's in. Either that or Kansas. Kansas has a pretty difficult region. They've got UCLA, but also in Houston they've got like Texas, and they've got a few other teams. They have a bunch of Big Ten teams in theirs. So it'll be interesting to say the least. Well, that's all I have for you today. Make sure you sign up for March Madness. You can create your bracket today, I think, since they've finished the selection show. And the first games are Thursday. So that March Madness is an amazing time. So make sure you get signed up for that. It'll be fun. And then make sure you sign up for fantasy baseball. Well, that's all I have for you. Thank you.